The Los V was a quiet planet, one of the few remaining outer rim settlements where humans tried to live unnoticed, away from the shadow of the Galactic Empire. The sky was lavender in the evenings. The soil, though sandy and poor, could yield crops if you worked it hard enough. Elira Voss had worked it harder than most. She stood outside the family home, stone walls, half buried in a shallow hill to preserve heat. Her two children, Kale, 9, and Mira, 6, ran barefoot through the brush, chasing a beetle that shimmered blue under the twin suns. Elira smiled softly. Moments like this were rare, precious. Her husband, Darren, was on a mining rig orbiting one of the system's moons. He wouldn't be home for 3 more cycles. The kids missed him, but today they laughed. The laughter ended when the Empire's dropships broke the sky. They came fast and low, sleek black hulls ripping through the air like spears. Her heart stopped. She grabbed both children by the arms and yanked them back toward the shelter. A voice thundered across the sky, broadcast from the ship above. By decree of the Galactic Empire, all unauthorized human settlements on the Los V are hereby terminated. Resistance will be met with lethal force. Elira froze. Terminated? 3 more dropships landed, their heavy feet hissing steam into the dirt. Imperial shock troopers disembarked. Tall, insectoid aliens in red exo-armor. Their rifles pulsed with blue plasma. Behind them marched administrative drones, scanning structures and tagging dwellers. One of the troopers spotted her. You're unauthorized. Relinquish the offspring." "No," Elira said, backing toward her home. "We have permits. Check your registry." The trooper raised his weapon. "Mother, I'm scared," Mira whispered. Elira moved fast, grabbing the small pistol hidden behind the front doorway. She fired once. The shot bounced off the trooper's armor harmlessly. He didn't hesitate. The plasma bolt struck Kale first, square in the chest. The boy crumpled. "No!" Elira screamed, turning to shield Mira. Another blast. Her world exploded in white-hot agony. She woke to silence. Smoke. The smell of scorched metal and flesh. Her body was buried halfway under rubble. Her leg twisted wrong. Her vision blurred. She pulled herself free, one agonizing inch at a time. She didn't feel the blood. Too much of it had already been lost. Her hand brushed soft skin. Mira, still, eyes open, staring at the sky. Elira let out a broken sound that didn't feel human. She had failed. She hadn't protected them. She pulled their bodies close and screamed into the dirt. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time dissolved in grief. The sun had fallen. The stars came out. That's when something shifted. Deep inside her, beneath bone, memory, pain, something old and sealed began to stir. Not rage. Not yet. Function. Her breathing slowed. Muscles restructured at a cellular level. Damaged nerves began knitting. Her shattered rib began to pulse. She blinked, clearing her vision. Her right eye flashed amber for a moment. A HUD flickered, ancient code running silently. Her neural core was waking up. That wasn't supposed to be possible. She had locked it down. She had made herself normal. Human. But the human part of her was lying in the dirt beside 2 lifeless bodies. Slowly, Elira stood. She looked down at her hands, bloodied, scraped, but already healing. They had killed her children. They didn't know what she was, what she used to be, what she had run from, what she was built to do. She looked up at the night sky. A patrol ship passed overhead, oblivious. Her voice came out low, hoarse, but steady. "They've made a mistake." Elira moved through the dense scrubland like a shadow, the twin moons casting silver light across her path. Her footfalls were silent. Her pain gone. Her body no longer felt like her own. It felt like a weapon. She hadn't felt this way in over a decade. A patch of scorched bark on a nearby tree reminded her of the plasma blasts, of her children's last screams. She didn't weep. Her grief had calcified into something colder, something focused, something lethal. She had buried Kale and Mira before sunset. No ceremony, no time, just a single word whispered over their graves. "I promise." Now she had work to do. Half a mile east of the settlement ruins, Under the ruins of an old mining station lay what she had hoped never to return to, the vault. Buried beneath layers of sand and collapsed steel, it took her hours to clear. Her enhanced strength was returning, accelerating with each breath. Beneath the debris, her fingers found the smooth alloy panel she had welded shut 10 years ago. She pressed her palm against the reader. The panel hissed, resisted, then cracked open with a sigh. Cold mist escaped. Inside, a black case, scratched, dented, and humming faintly. She opened it. The armor was still there, sleek matte black polyfiber, adaptable to heat, pressure, and electromagnetic signature. Human-made, once feared across the galaxy. It had no markings now, no rank. She was no longer a soldier, no longer Captain Elira Voss of the Terran Widow Corps. But she was still a widow. The neural jack flared as she connected it to the base of her skull. Pain surged through her spine, but she didn't flinch. The HUD lit up across her vision. Vital scans, combat subroutines, threat analysis, Widow protocol, offline, initiate reactivation. Yes. Suddenly, everything roared back, like a blade being drawn from rusted scabbard. Her body locked, muscles tightened, aligning with deep-trained motion reflexes. The armor's AI synced with her neural rhythms. The process would have killed a normal person. But she wasn't normal. When it was done, she stood again, no longer hidden, no longer restrained. In the stillness, a voice echoed in her memory. There'll be no mercy for widows, Elira. If you ever activate again, you're marked. Earth is gone. The resistance is dead. Live as a civilian. Forget everything. That had been Commander Breck. Her handler. He had lied. Earth wasn't gone. She was still here. Her children were Earth. And now they were gone. So mercy was no longer on the table. She walked for miles, following old terrain maps stored in her implant. The Empire's forward operation base was built atop an old Terran relay tower. Stupid, lazy Imperial engineering. They had assumed the tower was dead. It wasn't. She reached a cliffside and tapped a small patch of moss-covered steel. A hatch opened, revealing a small terminal. It pulsed, dimly powered by a solar microcell she had installed years ago. Accessing relay node 7 Gamma. She linked her armor's uplink to the tower. Connected, initiating scan of local Imperial network. She waited. One command dreadnought detected in orbit. 12 active patrol outposts. Data traffic, standard encryption. Low awareness level. They do not know you're alive. Good. She began uploading command overrides. Fragments of Terran code the Empire had never fully cracked. Stealth beacons reactivated. Surveillance cams flickered offline across 3 regions. Automated drones in hangars stood down. She smiled. They thought humanity had died on Earth. They didn't realize Earth had scattered like seeds. And one of those seeds had turned into a weapon. Before she left the relay, she activated one last subroutine. A broadcast. Encrypted. Narrowband. Old Widow frequency. To any Terran operative receiving this. Widow 1 has reactivated. Empire has executed civilian targets on the Los V, including miners. I am initiating retribution. Target. Command Dreadnought Uranthus. The outpost wasn't prepared. That was their first mistake. The second was assuming the attacks were isolated, random acts of rebellion. But Elira didn't do random. She was precise. Outpost Delta 47 sat nestled in the valley basin, its perimeter guarded by 4 automated turrets and a squad of Empire conscripts. Low-ranking species bred more for obedience than skill. Standard protocol assumed only local fauna or small insurgent bands would pose a threat. Then, one by one, the turrets went dark. The first trooper died without a sound, his throat sliced by a vibrating monoblade. The second went down with a single silenced kinetic shot to the skull. By the time the last trooper managed to scream, Elira had already disabled their comm array and jammed the emergency beacon. 3 minutes. That's how long it took her to erase the outpost from functional status. She left one survivor. The quartermaster, an alien with pale gray skin and 4 black eyes, trembled as she pressed a blade against his carotid sac. I want names, she said coldly. Commanders, officers, who signed off on the Los Purge. I don't know. We're just patrol. We're not told. She twisted the blade just enough to draw a hiss of pain. Then give me someone who is told. Sector Marshal Zarak, the alien gasped. He's the High Executor for the Outer Rim. It was his directive. All humans deemed uncontrolled were targeted. She stared at him, jaw clenched. Zarak. She remembered the name. A strategist, known for efficient extermination campaigns and psychological terror. She had seen his handiwork on other worlds. Now she had a target. You tell your next officer this, she said, pressing a small device into the alien's trembling hand. This was a mercy. She walked away. Moments later, the device lit up, transmitting a high-definition loop of the massacre she had just orchestrated, encrypted and pinged to 6 nearby command channels. She wanted them to see. Back in the forest, Elira reviewed the footage through her HUD. Every move, every strike, no wasted effort. She was faster than she'd ever been. The Widow protocol was adapting, rebuilding muscle, streamlining neural reaction time, enhancing focus beyond even what her training had prepared her for. She barely needed to think anymore. Her body moved before her mind caught up. The AI spoke in her mind like an old friend. Metabolic response optimal. Neural fusion 87% complete. Widow status fully active. She almost smiled. Almost. 2 nights later, she ambushed a convoy on Route Varney's 9. 3 transports. 2 escort drones. She disabled the drones mid-flight by triggering an ancient Terran EMP mine she had buried years ago, just in case. The explosion was visible from orbit. Before the transports could scatter, she dropped from a ridge, sliced through the cabin hulls with a pulse blade, and pulled the commanding officer out by the throat. He begged. He screamed something about family, orders, duty. So had her children. She put a round through his skull. By the end of the week, Imperial communications across the sector were in chaos. 6 outposts destroyed. 4 convoys obliterated. 0 survivors willing to fight. Every location bore the same message, carved into metal walls or burned into the ground with plasma. You killed our future. Now we take yours. Widow 1. The phrase spread across military chatter like wildfire. Imperial commanders debated whether this was a rogue AI. Some thought it was a coordinated rebel uprising. Others suggested it was a ghost story, a Terran legend reborn. They were all wrong. It was one mother, and she was just getting started. From his throne on the dreadnought Uranthus, Sector Marshal Zarak finally took notice. He watched the playback of a widow tearing through his soldiers with surgical precision. She was too fast for the targeting systems, too smart for their patrol routes, too human for their comfort. Activate the Karn Dominion, he ordered, voice like gravel. Bring in the hunters. Find this thing, and end her. A nearby officer swallowed. The Karn only take high-threat contracts. We'll have to offer. Zarak turned to face him. I don't care what it costs. This widow thinks she's making a statement. I want her head sent to every human settlement still breathing. High above the Los, in the dark of space, the dreadnought began to descend, slowly, silently, like a blade descending toward the throat of a forgotten world. Elira saw it from a cliffside perch. Her eyes narrowed. Finally, the Karn Dominion hunters arrived like wraiths from a void. 6 genetically engineered killers in bone-forged armor, bred on a planet where survival meant murder and loyalty was auctioned to the highest bidder. The Empire didn't just hire assassins. They summoned nightmares. Their leader, Varesh the Hollow, towered nearly 8 feet. His face was a polished white mask of scorched ivory. His voice filtered through a gravitic modulator that made every word sound like it came from a collapsing star. You want her dead, Varesh said, examining the hollow footage of Elira's attacks. I want her unmade, Sector Marshal Zarak growled. She's a remnant, an echo from Earth's war crimes. I want her erased from the timeline. Varesh tilted his head. We do not erase echoes, Marshal. We hunt them until they beg to be forgotten. Elira stood in the ruins of an old comms tower, staring up at the night sky. The dreadnought was in low orbit now, Visible, ominous, bloated with command signatures and thermal shielding. She could feel the gravity disturbances in her bones. The Empire had finally realized she was a threat. Good. She downloaded a final schematic into her HUD. Uranthus's lower deck layout, matching data from a decades-old Terran infiltration op. If it hadn't been for a dying resistance cell who pinged her back after her open broadcast, she wouldn't have had a shot. Now, she had a plan. She had one shot to board the dreadnought, and she knew they'd be waiting for her. She was already moving when the Karn hunters dropped. They didn't come in ships. They came in coffins, orbital insertion pods that struck the surface like meteors. Her sensors picked up the impact tremors 5 kilometers east. The chase had begun. She lured them to the forest. Not for cover, for control. Elira had spent years mapping this terrain, planting traps, storing ordnance, and wiring motion triggers beneath roots and rocks. She didn't need strength to beat the Karn. She needed the world to fight for her. The first hunter fell to a magnetic trip mine, his exocore crushed by the force of his own grav plate. The second burned alive when she led him through a sulfur vent ignited by flares. Varesh adapted quickly. He stopped pursuing her directly and deployed smart drones with thermal locks and vibration sniffers. Elira had no choice but to engage. She took the fight to them. One by one, blades met claws. Plasma scorched the underbrush. Her armor cracked under the onslaught, warning alerts screaming into her vision. Still, she pushed. One hunter caught her by the throat and hurled her into a tree. Her HUD blinked red. Fractured rib, punctured lung, biorepair module at 19%. Pain surged through her, but she had felt worse. She twisted, drove her elbow into the hunter's jaw, then fired a point-blank shot into his secondary heart. 3 down, 2 remained. She reached the canyon ridge as the final 2 hunters cornered her. Varesh stood behind them, watching silently. "You bleed," one of the hunters said. "You're no god, no widow, just another ghost." Elira said nothing. Instead, she activated the final beacon. From the canyon walls, the old Terran relay system flared to life, scrambled Empire signals, released hidden drone swarms, and sent a focused beam skyward. Seconds later, the sky split open. An orbital strike from her HACCOM's relay hit the ridge. It wasn't meant to kill the hunters. It was a signal. The real attack had already begun. Above, in orbit, the Uranthus lurched. Its sensors went blind. Power grid blinked. Rear hangars opened, then shut erratically. Deep within the ship, a virus activated. Elira's virus. Seeded into the ship's maintenance drones by her first assault weeks ago. Activated now by the canyon relay. Doors locked. Turrets turned inward. Life support vented in specific halls. Panic spread among the crew like fire. On the ridge, Elira stood among the smoke. Only Varesh remained. He stepped forward slowly, dragging a blade longer than her body. "You are resourceful," he said, "but still alone." She activated her helmet. Wrong. A signal echoed from her armor. The widow broadcast. From the forest, the shadows answered. 3 more widows emerged, silent, armored, deadly. Their neural cores burned bright. Not ghosts. Survivors. Seeds of Earth. Varesh finally hesitated, and Elira smiled. "You came for kill, but we came for war."